Left of the box.
Today in Canadian news.
Yes, today in Canada news, only this wasn't today. I'm a bit behind because I took a couple days off. But apparently, former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney is dead. This is my heart not breaking. Details released on state funeral for former Prime Minister Mulroney. A state funeral for Prime Minister Brian Mulroney will be held on March 23rd in Montreal. Mulroney died February 29th at a Florida hospital following a recent fall at his Palm Beach home. He was 84. Retired to where it was warm and conservative. Parliamentarians are expected to pay tribute to Canada's 18th Prime Minister in the House of Commons when MPs return to Ottawa on March 18th after a 2-week break. Members of the public will be able to pay their respects to Mulroney in Ottawa. I'm not going out of my way to pay any respects to him. So Mulroney led the Progressive Conservative Party in Canada, served nearly 9 years as Prime Minister between 1984 and 1993. He is remembered for being the leader to usher in new trade relations with the United States. NAFTA. First with the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement and later the first version of the North American Free Trade Agreement. He was also passionate about environmental causes, leading to a global treaty to protect the ozone layer and signing a pact with the US to reduce the pollution that caused acid rain. South Africa remembers him for helping champion an end to apartheid as a leader within the Commonwealth groups of nations. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky noted Mulroney was the first Western leader to recognize an independent Ukraine. State funerals are public events held to honor former governors, former governor generals and prime ministers, as well as current cabinet ministers. The prime minister can hold them for other eminent Canadians as well. Yes, let's honor him, shall we? Brian Mulroney was a piece of trash. Horrible prime minister. And he doesn't deserve the dignity of this article. What he did to this country is disgusting. But the fact that he was a politician that, used to be, they always love rehabilitating them into something that they weren't. But he was a horrible, horrible person, horrible prime minister, to the point that he actually had to step down before the vote of non-confidence went through. So here in Canada, you can kick out a prime minister if there's a vote of non-confidence. And when that happens and they say, we no longer have confidence, then they can kick him out. And since he knew this was coming, he stepped down before that happened so that he wouldn't be completely disgraced with that. Funny. Let's see. Didn't say anything about that in this article, that, he had to step down because he was such a horrible prime minister. But speaking of those headlines I was mentioning, being accurate and stuff like that, this one here. So Brian Mulroney, one of Canada's most divisive prime ministers, dead at 84, says the Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail had to do this. An automated tweet about former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney contained a headline that was not in line with our standards. It has now been deleted. So apparently this very accurate headline was written by AI. He was a very divisive Prime Minister. I don't see the fault in that. AI actually got it. They got this one. How dare they get this accurate to the point that Globe and Mail is like, ooh, that sounds a little bit too accurate. We need more of this. That was just nice. But to show a little bit of his past here, so Brian Mulroney's 1984 election was one of the largest landslide victories in Canadian federal politics, winning 50% of the popular vote and about 75% of the seats in the House of Commons. Winning 50% of the popular vote, that's pretty big, considering that, a lot of our governments only make it in with like 40% of the popular vote sometimes. I think Justin Trudeau squeaked in. What was it? Like, it was really shockingly low this last time, but then again, it's not a majority government either. So at one time, he was seen, like when he got into office, he was seen as like the shining light of what Canada would become, and he totally did bad stuff here. And we'll get into some of that. Because this is important to know. It's important to know our history, our politics, and things of that sort. Mulroney's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by the introduction of major economic reforms such as the NAFTA, goods and service tax, the GST, that was created to replace the manufacturer's sale tax, and privatization of 23 of 61 Crown corporations, including Air Canada and Petro-Canada. Yes, Air Canada used to be a Crown corporation and then it got privatized. It sold off a whole bunch of our Crown corporations that just made them so much worse. Mulroney sought Quebec's endorsement of the 1982 constitutional amendments by first introducing the Meek Lake Accord and then Charlottetown Accord. Since they both failed and the Meek Lake Accord's demise revived Quebec's separatism, leading to the rise of the Bloc Québécois. So, Brian Mulroney helped inspire the Bloc Québécois. In foreign policy, Mulroney strengthened Canada's ties with the United States and opposed the apartheid regime in South Africa, leading an effort within the Commonwealth to sanction the country. Mulroney's tenure was marked by the Air India Flight 182 bombing, the largest mass killing in Canadian history, though his response to the attack came under criticism. Mulroney made environmental protections a priority by securing a treaty with the United States on acid rain, making Canada the first industrialized country to ratify the Convention on Biological Diversity. The unpopularity of the GST and the controversy surrounding its passage in the Senate, combined with the early 1990s recession, the collapse of the Charlottetown Accord, and growing Western alienation that triggered the rise of the Reform Party, that's quite the statement, caused a stark decline in Mulroney's popularity, which induced him to resign and hand over power to his cabinet to Kim Campbell in June 1993. And that, my friends, is how Canada got their only non-white, cisgendered, heterosexual male prime minister. Yes, Kim Campbell, a woman, was prime minister for less than a year because Brian Mulroney was so bad. And this is that glass cliff that people talk about. They knew they stood no chance of getting into power again. They knew their party was toast. And that's when they're like, well, we'll just let a woman be in the position when we completely take that fall. I've seen it a bunch of times with different things. The election later that year, the Progressive Conservatives were reduced from a majority government of 156 seats to 2. That is massive. With its support being eroded by the Bloc and Reform parties. In his retirement, I don't care about anything about that. So he was criticized for his role in the resurgence of Quebec nationalism and accused of corruption in the Airbus affair, a scandal that came to light only several years after he left office. But that doesn't really concisely kind of wrap up some of the things that he was known for. So this person here, Mulroney brought Canada into neoliberal era, privatizing industries, deregulating, cutting taxes, attacking labor, overseeing an incredible transfer of wealth to the rich. Many wealthy people liked Mulroney, so they're going to celebrate him and rehabilitate his image. We gotta make sure that never happens. So more from David here saying, so Mulroney's record, privatized 23 Crown corporations, brought in the U.S.-Canada Free Trade Agreement, slashed taxes for corporations and rich, attacked social spending and public services, brought in regressive sales tax, took huge kickbacks. Literal briefcase full of money. The lefty Canadian radical, Tory, also said Mulroney was the last prime minister to meet a climate change target. So that was good, I suppose. He's negotiated one of the worst pieces of trade legislation to hurt Canada's working class and privatized Petro-Canada. Today, most of our oil sands share are foreign owned. So while he might have helped, he also really hurt, really did a lot of damage to us. And Mulroney's NAFTA, which Jean Chrétien ran on improving, then signed as is, decimated manufacturing in Ontario. Canada is a dominantly services-based economy, and workers here compete with third world wages to survive. This helped keep wage growth down to 6% for 50 years. Enjoy Henderson just pointing out, because here's Olivier Chow's statement on his passing. Mayor Olivier Chow is the mayor of Toronto, Canada's largest city. Brian Mulroney leaves a legacy benefiting all of us. He championed the environment, campaigning to end acid rain and protect the ozone. He led efforts to oppose apartheid in South Africa and offered redress of the historical injustice of internment camps of Japanese Canadians, because, that also happened here and not just in the United States. I'm grateful for his contributions to our country. My condolences to the Mulroney family. And Joy Henderson just saying Brian Mulroney led efforts to end apartheid in South Africa? No, the fuck he did not, Olivia. Black folks did. Jesus fucking ball-headed gay Christ on a pogo stick. Yes. Not the best thing to kind of, take credit for there, Brian, to give that kind of credit to Brian Mulroney. But there's another thing. Another big thing that happened while he was in power. A lot of people don't necessarily know about. So Terrell Tailfeathers says, one of the things I will always remember about Brian Mulroney is this picture, and that he sent just as many troops, if not more, to Oka than he did to the 1990 Gulf War. Qui? Qu'est-ce que c'est? What is this? The Oka crisis. And then we have this. Beginning tomorrow, we, the NDP, are calling on Parliament to take a clear stand for a permanent ceasefire. Huh? Wait, this tweet seems out of place. I have already talked about Gaza, and this is about reinstating funding to UNRWA and to ask for a permanent ceasefire, for arms embargo on Israel, for recognition of the state of Palestine. It's time for Canada to be on the side of peace and justice. Wait, this seems so out of place, this tweet. It shouldn't be part of this docket, should it? We'll see. So the NDP, again, Nikki Ashton, when it comes to what's happening over in Gaza, outspoken, really good. And, we definitely need to be doing this in Parliament. The debate on the motion will begin tomorrow. Oh, update. The debate of our motion has been moved to Monday, March 18th, because Parliament will be cancelled tomorrow due to the death of former PM Mulroney. So we have 2 weeks to call on Liberal, Conservatives, and Bloc MPs to vote for peace and justice instead of complicity and genocide. So to honor this former Prime Minister, they're going to put off any progress on what's happening and what Canada is doing towards, Gaza and the Palestinians. So his memory and legacy lives on, I guess. To put off Parliament with such an atrocity happening because such a horrible person happened to die. Ugh.